Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our early start time at 1 o'clock here of Drive Time with Matty Ice. It is good to be to you, coming to you live today from Boston. My wife gets to do these work things every now and then, and I usually tag along and work from the home time here in the hotel room. And but we're doing the show early because then tonight there's stuff to go see, food to go eat, and when I go to these towns, I definitely like to go find the good places to eat and eat lots and lots of good food. But I have a special surprise for everybody today too. I have a special guest host now. Vic and I go way back from our days in the Lockberry Court crew together. We lived in the same
Shenanigans.
neighborhood. Yes. All kinds of shenanigans were had in the Vic household and especially in the garage. Um, the funny thing is Vic's dad is also Vic, and so even though he's going on here has Big Vic, we always called him Little Vic because his dad was Big Vic, just because he was first. But if you look at the two of them, he is Big Vic, and his dad is truly Little Vic. But it doesn't matter; we still call them that anyway. So anyway, Vic, welcome to Drive Time. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Just
Yes, we are.
hope you're
You're
having a
ready to
good week.
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this week has already started off great. My work computer didn't work most today. I wasn't sure we were going to have a show at all. Honestly, with you today, it was not looking good. But so far, things are cooperating. Let's just hope it gets through the hour. There's no wood in this hotel room for me. Ah, here we go. That's some type of wood down there. I think it's probably fake wood, but I'm knocking on it anyway. Damn it! And we're going to hope it gets through the show here. So here we go. We of course start with always. What am I wearing now? Tomorrow night I'm going to the Bruins game, so I get to check the TD Garden off an arena that I've not been to yet. They're playing the Florida Panthers. When we get into the NHL trade deadline, that matchup was looking really good there for a couple of moments. Unfortunately, Brad Marchand's not going to be making us playing for Florida because he's still coming off the injury. So I had to pick a neutral jersey because one thing I learned: Boston and Philly are the two areas you do not go into with other teams' jerseys on. It just is not a good experience. I did have a Florida jersey. I could wear it and be that guy, but I'm going in
Do it.
neutral. So no, no. So I'm wearing my Kent State jersey tomorrow for the game, and so that is what I'm wearing today. Now, Vic, if you want to model what you're wearing, you're welcome to. It's just my bit. You don't have to join in the bit if you don't want to.
Got my Canes hat and Panther shirt. All Carolina, all the time.
Yes, he still lives in Raleigh, folks. So you're gonna have to forgive him for that. He still holds true to his Carolina teams. Although I'm still the Canes fan too, but the Panthers are well. Hey, they're maybe even showing signs of getting better. One team that we do not have to worry about getting better is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They just keep winning, folks. We're up to another 14-game winning streak. They took care of Milwaukee last night. This team is just feeling it. They have three of the four longest win streaks of the season now. Was it 50, 54 and 10 officially? KG always jokes with the gentleman Jack about that they weren't going to get to 60 games, and KG's is looking more and more like he's going to win that bet because they are sitting there at 54 and 10. Vic, you got anything to throw in here on the Cavs?
I think Boston and Cleveland's going to match up in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens.
I agree with that. I think those two are definitely on the collision course in the East, barring injury, of course. And then out west, we'll see. Like I've been joking on here, my heart is set. I want the Lakers and the Cavs in the final. I want LeBron versus Cleveland. It's just for the theatrics of it alone. That's what I want to see happen. So we'll see if we get that or not. I'm hoping that that's what we get. This one I added in especially for Vic. We're going to dive into some college basketball stuff. We're going to get into the good side of the college basketball, but first I do want to cover the bad side. The head coach from North Carolina State's men's team was just fired yesterday as well. This is a year removed from their Final Four run, which was, granted, a bit of a surprise. Vic, if I remember correctly, they had to win the tournament just to even get in last year, right? If they didn't win the tournament, they probably weren't going to make it into the NCAA. Am I correct on my
Correct.
memory?
Correct.
Yeah. So,
They had to win the
so
ACC tournament, and they had a couple miracle shots just to get through that, and then it was just magic. It was just magic from there. But it was time. I think he only had two tournament appearances, and last year was just good players just hitting shots, magic over and over again. Final four. It made me happy, of course, but it was time. And we'll see who we hire. I've heard a couple of names: Will Wade, Odom, a couple others. So we'll see. But it was time. He was a nice guy. I met him a couple times, shook his hand. But you know, it's a tough business. If you don't win, it's time to go.
I agree. This is even further proof of it, right? You go from a final. I thought maybe that Final Four might buy him another year. I thought it was very interesting because he released this little statement, and he does what every other coach does. Thanks the administration and giving them the chance, and that they had a lot of fun. I thought he took a kind of a little interesting little stab though at the team, talking about if the university fully supports the team, that then the NC State is set up for success. Was there an inside jab there at NC State and the administration a little bit that you're aware of? I know you're probably close to seeing where maybe you'd know that.
I think it's more to do with the NIL and all the new NIL situations. Obviously, we're never going to have as much money as the UNCs with all their, uh, alumni and whatnot. You got MJ and all them crazy people that will put in the basketball and stuff. But yeah, we'll see. I think it had more to do with NIL and the fans putting more money in NIL to get the players we need and whatnot. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was kind of curious when I saw that. It's like, is there a little under? It seemed like there was a little bit of a under punch in the general thank you. So anyway, we'll see where NC State goes. I think it's a good university. It doesn't get the love, obviously. I think that Duke and UNC gets, just because that they're always in the prime, it seems like. But personally, when I was there, of the three, I would root for NC State over the other two. Just because, but I'll be honest, I kind of enjoyed a little bit watching all three struggle in basketball, just because I'm a Kent State guy and my team always struggles, so I have to share my misery sometimes. So, but let's get to some good news. So we did have some really good basketball this weekend, and some spots have been clinched in tournaments. I'm going to start on the ladies' side, and look, I was traveling yesterday, so I was kind of hoping to give a little bit more of a breakdown on the ladies' side of how each team got in there. But the teams that have clinched their tickets by winning their conference tournament: George Mason, Duke, TCU, High Point, UCLA, from the big 264, Tennessee Tech, South Carolina, UNC Greensboro, and South Dakota State on the ladies' side have all clinched their tickets. I know the Duke one hurt you a little bit because they did beat NC State, but let's be honest, NC State's getting the tournament. They've got nothing to worry about. It's just they don't get to go back to back on the ACC side, right?
Correct. It was a good game. Halftime, it kind of turned. One of our Zaza James got hurt. She came back in the third quarter, but I think that just took us back. In the fourth quarter, we couldn't hit anything, and their defense just suffered. So it is what it is. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, they're going to be in it. It's going to be interesting. I think on the ladies' side, you still got NC State. Obviously, Duke will be up there too. You got the two big in the SEC. You got Texas and South Carolina,
South
and then of
Carolina.
course there's always UConn is going to be in there. Those are going to be the teams when it gets down to the nitty gritty. I think we'll be there barring an upset, but it's going to be fun to watch for sure. On the ladies' side, I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. On the men's side, of course, we had some tickets punched in. The Ohio Valley, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, which was the 2 seed, took out the number 1 seed, Southeast Missouri, 69-48. So they were the first team to clinch their bid. I'm sure that Southern Illinois, Edwardsville has number 16 seed written all over it, doesn't it, Vic?
For sure. I never heard of either of them teams, but hey, congrats to them.
Yeah, your winning is going to be, you're probably going to face Auburn. Good luck with that. So
Yeah, have fun with that one.
In the Atlantic Sun, Lipscomb, which that they've made their share of tournament appearances before. They took out North Alabama, North Alabama was only in their 7th year Division I ball, so it would have been their first shot at it, but they fell a little short, 76-65. So Lipscomb is back in the tournament. They usually are a 15, 16 seed. And the Big South, we do have a team making the tournament for the first time, and that's High Point. The women's team made it and the men's team for the first time ever. And High Point is in North Carolina. They took out Winthrop 81-69. So congrats to High Point. They're going to be making it to their first tournament ever. You got any High Point love for you there, Vic?
High Point. I think that's close to the mountains and all that stuff. I've probably been by there a few times, never noticed them, but hey, congrats to them. Happy for them. You went all Carolina all the time, so I'll be pulling for them, but I don't think they're going to do much, but hey, we'll see. You never know.
Oh, I got a funny feeling High Point's got that's another team that's got 16, maybe if they're lucky, 15 written all over them, unfortunately. But
might be a low point after all that, so we'll see.
Yes, you got it exactly right. I think that could be it. any team that was on the bubble was definitely happy with what happened in the Missouri Valley because Drake, that's one of my sleeper teams for this year. I'm not sure what seed they're going to get. They're 29-3 this year. That team can play some. You talk about a team that can play defense. Drake is definitely a team that can play that defense. They took out Bradley yesterday, 63-48. Drake is 29-3 now on the season. I'm going to be really curious to see what seed they get because something tells me I got a funny feeling they're going to end up in that 12 spot, and we all know how
That's
the
what
12s like to beat a 5, right?
that's what I'm thinking. 12 seed, maybe 13.
Yep, and those are the money makers in the tournament, and that Drake is going to be a team I can honestly see them getting into the Sweet 16. I think they could win a couple.
For sure, for sure.
All right, we got Summit in the Summit Conference. Omaha from Nebraska, they took down the number 2 seed St. Thomas, not the nice pretty island, St. Thomas of Minnesota, 85-75. So Omaha gets into the tournament as well. So congrats to them. And then we got 2 more spots that are going to be up today in the Southern Conference. This is one where not really, I would say, true upsets in the sense that we don't have an under 500 team, but the 4 and 5 seeds and they're familiar from the NCAA tournament. Sanford and Furman will be battling out today. Sanford's 22-8, Furman's 25-8. They meet today in the finals. And then the Sun Belt, the Sun Belt was really crazy this year. They had 4 teams finish all with the same record at the top spot, and what ended up being the number 3 and 4 seeds, Arkansas State and Troy. Those 2 are the 2 that escaped into the finals. The semifinals were those top 4 teams, and Arkansas State and Troy make it into the finals. So 2 more spots will get ticket punched today to the tournament. The Sun Belt, I think the Sun Belt could get 2. I can see both of these teams making it, maybe even a couple of those other ones with how down some of the other conferences are. What do you think, Vic?
I agree. A lot of down basketball this year. ACC's down. Big, is it the Big 12 or Big 10 now? Big 12, I think, is down. So we'll see some more, maybe some
Yeah,
other bid stealers around
we
there.
got it's still the Big 10, but that's the one I always joke and call the Big 247 because there's just so many
Yeah,
teams
yeah,
in it
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
How they still
Yeah.
call it the Big 10? I only think the Big 12 has 12 teams anymore. But my joke is my bid is always stuck on the Big 10 of calling it the Big 247, or and sometimes even change the number just to have fun with it. So yeah, I agree with you. There's going to be, which is me being a mid major guy, that's my love, as I love seeing these mid majors get in and then do damage. So the more they get in, the better. So. Then this week, of course, we got it all starting. We've got a whole bunch of fun coming up this week. Still, we've got Townsend is the number 1 seed in the CAA going with UNC Wilmington. That conference tournament is just getting started. The Horizon semis is tonight. Robert Morris, they're the number 1 seed. They are taking on, I think it's Oakland, but don't quote me on that. Actually, no, wait, the semis are tonight. I'm sorry. So Robert Morris is taking on Oakland, and then Cleveland State gets Youngstown State. We've got in the Northeast, this is one of those first ones. I always like seeing a team that is under 500 getting in. Let me see here. Vic, can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's just I got my thing saying that the network connection was unstable, so I was making sure that I wasn't just rambling on and no one could hear me. So if you can hear me, then hopefully then we're still good to go. So we'll just have to watch that, but hopefully we're still good. So anyway, so we have Robert Morris against Oakland, Cleveland State against Youngstown State in the Horizon. Northeast, Central Connecticut 25-6. They're the 1 seed. They are taking on St. Francis, which is only 15-17, and they are in the final of that conference tournament. So if St. Francis wins on March 11th, we will have at least 1 team that is under 500 into the tournament because these schools get the automatic bid. It doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. The West Coast Conference, which is what I think I think all 3 of these teams are going to get in. You got St. Mary's, Gonzaga, and San Francisco, of course. The kicker though is Pepperdine is in their semifinals. They got St. Mary's. They're going to be taking on St. Mary's. Pepperdine is only 13-21 and in that semifinals, but I can't see them beating St. Mary's and then the winner of Gonzaga and San Fran to get in. That would be a total surprise. Feeling different there, Vic? You got any love for Pepperdine pulling off the major upset?
No love here for Pepperdine. I think they're probably going to be done tonight with St. Mary's. So sorry,
I
Pepperdine.
I agree with you on that for sure. And then the Big Sky, North Colorado's the 1 seed there. Montana's the number 2 seed. The Patriot League, you got this is another one where there could again be the potential for a team getting in that is under 500. American is the 2 seed. They're 21-12. They get Navy, and this game is on March 12th. And Navy is only 15-18. So again, another spot where we could get a sneak peek in there. So. And then the Southland Conference, McNeese State is the number 1 seed. Lamar is number 2. They've got some games to play before we know for sure. And then of course the big day is March 15th. That's when a lot of them happen. The ACC, the Big 12, the Big East, the Big West, Conference USA, all those ones. The winner doesn't have to win to get in. Then you got the funds of the conferences, the MAAC, and then you got the MAC, and then you got the MEAC. All those happen. Of course, the MAC is true and dear to my heart. Akron's another team. If they get in at 25-6, I think they can do some damage. Miami of Ohio is the 2 seed. My Kent State is the 3 seed. So I was very happy that Kent ended up getting up into the 3 spot because I did not want them to have to play Akron in the semis this way. I think they can beat Miami if they get there, but Akron is they lost one conference game all year. I can't see them losing to anybody, to be honest with you, but we'll see what happens. So. And then of course you got the Mountain West, the SWAC, the WAC, and then March 16th you got the few that come in there too. You got the American Athletic, the Atlantic 10, the Big 10, the SEC, and the Ivy League. So a lot of conference tournaments to come up on. The SEC I think is going to be the one to watch. That's you got 4 or 5 teams there that can win that thing. Vic, any that you're going to be watching? I don't think the NC State men's team even made the
No,
conference tournament, did they? No, I don't
no,
think
no.
so. Any of them that you're going to be watching?
I just want to say go Seahawks. That's where my dad graduated from, so I always pull for the Seahawks. Got a soft spot for the Seahawks. Then we also got an old neighbor that goes to UNCW. So, um, yep. And I think the SEC will probably maybe get 8, 9, maybe 10 teams in, no matter what happens in that tournament. So
Great.
a pretty stacked tournament there. Could be some good games. Um, so ACC, I think it'll probably be Duke and I think just Duke. They've been consistent all year, and I actually think Duke and Auburn will probably be maybe the final 4. Maybe they'll play each other, and that'll be a good game. You got Broom and Flag, 2 NBA prospects, so we'll see.
I agree. It's gonna be good stuff, for sure, and it's gonna be fun. And this is that time of year where if you like college basketball, this is the time for sure to go, to see it. So, we'll see what happens this week, but we got a lot to get to still. So let's get to it, and we're gonna get into some football news. I'm gonna start on the college football side, and this one is kind of near and dear to my heart too. Eddie George, who, of course, former Ohio State Buckeye, had a great NFL career, was building a nice little program down at Tennessee State. But he decides to go get into the Division I ball and go to Bowling Green. Now, look, there are some that will argue, is this a step up or not? Because anyone that knows football in the MAC, it's not like the basketball programs have had success lately. The MAC is about as the bottom rung Division I as you can get, but it's still a D1 school. And my guess is that if he can, get Bowling Green to where they need to be, where they're competing for MAC titles in a year or two, it is a good stepping stone for coaches. Lots of coaches have gone from the MAC. That's where a gentleman named Nick Saban, actually got his start, and Urban Meyer got their starts in the MAC, and then use those to build on. So one thing MAC coaches do have really a lot of success at is going from the MAC up. And I think this is, it's going to be interesting to see how he does, because I think it's a little late for a head coach change to go there in March, because basically, the recruiting and all that stuff is kind of done. So, hopefully, but I think Bowling Green will be patient with him because of that. But it's nice to see Eddie George back in Ohio, at least for me.
I
Anything to
enjoy
add on it,
watching.
Vic?
I enjoy watching Eddie George at Tennessee. So we'll see what he can do at good old Bowling Green in the MAC, and I know you'll be pulling to get some when Kent State plays them. So we'll see.
Well, yes, that's true. But let's be honest, I might pull against them, but it ain't gonna help when you've lost 20 games in a row. It doesn't matter what I pull for. The Kent State's football team has just got off this year. But we'll save that talk for when we get to football season, because I'll have fun with that as it gets closer, because I at least know that my team is one in true suckness for sure. Um, but since we're in Ohio and we're talking football, I was all prepared to draw out this whole Myles Garrett saga, because he wanted a meeting with the owner earlier this week. Couldn't get the meeting with the team owner, and I was getting ready to talk about, man, this is looking like this is going to be a stalemate, because the Browns saying he's not moving, he's saying he wants out, and then I'm on the plane when we're landing in Baltimore. The guys were on the show, and I see breaking news come up while I was watching the Winthrop game, and it says, "Hey, looky here, Myles Garrett just signed." Hold on here, we're going to backtrack here before we get to Myles Garrett, because there was a comment that came through, so I do want to read it real quick. So I always like to read the comments. Chad, thanks for joining us live. As an old guy, I will say the NCAA tournament is still fantastic, but it's more fantastic when you had superstar juniors and seniors playing in it. The teams of Jordan, Worthy, Perkins, or Hurley, Leitner, and Hill, etc. That was the golden age. I do agree. But that's why I think I still love the mid majors some, because the mid majors, you still got those senior laden teams that get in. You don't have the guys that have gone from school to school on different NIL deals. A lot of these teams that do well, like the Drakes and stuff like that, they have those type of teams where they're juniors and seniors, and that's what gets them in. So we'll see what happens, but Chad, definitely love the comment, and if it was up here for a while, I'm sorry if I missed it while we were still talking about it, but you keep commenting as the stuff comes on here. So, but anyway, but now Myles Garrett is with Cleveland. He signs a 4-year extension, and I guess we should have known, Vic, because anytime a player says it's not about the money, what's it about?
The money.
The money, right?
Always about
And
the money.
that's right. And he signs a 4-year extension, gets $40 million a year. So everything that was wrong with Cleveland and why he wanted out, all of a sudden doesn't matter when you're getting $40 million a year, right?
All about the money. But
Anything you want to add on Myles Garrett?
he definitely earned it. He's one of the best defensive players in the game, one of the best overall players. He's a beast. He averages 15 sacks a year. I still don't know. Cleveland doesn't have much anything else, so we'll see. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have much of anything, but he'll keep them in most games the way he plays, the way he can disrupt everything. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. I think there's a lot that Cleveland still has to do. Of course, they do at the number 2 pick. From what everyone seems to be thinking in Cleveland is, if Tennessee doesn't take Cam Ward, that's who they're taking. If Tennessee takes Cam Ward, it sounds like they're going to take one of the defensive guys. It does not sound like at this point in time they're taking Sanders at 2. But again, look, teams throw so much smoke right now, and if they don't end up taking Sanders at 2, then I can totally see then they should trade out of that pick and find somebody because somebody will take him at 2 if they really don't think that he's going to go, and they should trade that pick and get more stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll see I think they're holding out hope that Tennessee goes defense first and Cam Ward's sitting there. I think that's what they want for sure.
That Penn State, I can't think of his name right now.
I know who you're talking about too, and now his name is drawn a blank. The not the one that got hurt, but anyway, I know who. Let's see here if I can pull it up here real quick. Prospects, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I meant to have my little prospects list up here, and like I said, with that, we'll pull them up here. So, there we go. Abdul Carter, that's who you're thinking of.
Abdul Carter, yep. I think he could go 1 or 2, and could you imagine him and Garrett on the same team, just wrecking offenses?
Yeah.
So I think if he drops to 2, I think Cleveland will take him, and if not, then it'll probably be a mistake. But
and maybe that was the selling point to Myles. Maybe they secretly said, look, we're either going to get Ward at 2, and he's the quarterback of the future, or we're going to go get you Abdul Carter, and he's going to be on the other side of you, and you guys can just we're just going to release you and go, right? So that could be fun for sure. Now, this next one is definitely going to be near and dear to Vic's heart because this man has been a staple on his fantasy team forever. Devontae Adams is now an LA Rams, so it appears the Cooper Cup is out, which has been talked about, that he's been allowed to find his own trade, and to go along with Nuku on the other side is going to be one Devontae Adams. So Vic, is this what does this mean for you? Are you keeping Devontae Adams now as one of your four keepers with him going to the Rams?
Probably. I don't got much else, so it'll probably be it'll probably be one of the four. And hey, him and Stafford could make some noise, and you got Puka on the other side. So yeah, you'll probably be one of my keepers.
I
Him and
I,
Jaden Daniels. So that's two pretty good ones. So
I think so. I think he's definitely worth keeping now with the Rams. I agree with you with Puka on the one side, and you got Stafford throwing the ball, and they do have good other weapons in LA for sure. I think he's only going to add to that, and I think he should be able to get along with Stafford fine. So I think it's a good move for both sides, and we'll see what that happens. This next one is going to be twofolds on these NFL trades, but I think the title of it is really the key here. What the hell are the Seattle Seahawks doing? Because I don't think that they were in a position where they needed to go for complete rebuild, and it kind of seems like with these two moves that they've made, that's where they're heading. I'm going to start with the one that doesn't quite matter as much to me. They trade away DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh, which was kind of a surprise move for Pittsburgh in the sense that I just wasn't sure they were going to be willing on making a trade like this. And then they immediately signed him to a long-term deal. We don't know who's going to throw the ball in Pittsburgh, but we know this between Pickens and Metcalf, they've got two hell of a wide receivers to bring in whoever they want.
yep. Two jump ball receivers that can go up and get the ball. So I'm thinking it might still be Justin Fields, and he can run and pass, and so we'll see.
Well, the rumors I saw on ESPN today are saying one Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh, which would be funny because my son, who is a huge Pittsburgh Steeler fan, Jared, was giving me crap about that the Raiders were going to end up getting Aaron Rodgers
So now
or
you get to
Russell
go back
Wilson.
at him.
And so now if Aaron Rodgers signs with Pittsburgh, I would enjoy that. But we also know now for sure that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be in Vegas because of the other move that Seattle made. They trade away Geno Smith to the Raiders for a third round pick. So Geno Smith gets back with his old coach in Pete Carroll. We give up a third round pick. He's got only 1 year left on his deal. What I thought was interesting about this is that so far there's not been an extension with the Raiders, so he could just be one and done, which kind of leads me to believe that this is the route the Raiders go. That I'm not certain that they're still not going to take a quarterback. It kind of seems like they want Geno to lead them for this year because they do want to try to win this year. Does My hope is it doesn't mean that we take Sanders at 6, not because I don't think Sanders can be a good quarterback. I think he will be a good quarterback. I want Gentry, the running back from Boise State. That's who I want the Raiders to take at 6, especially now that they got Geno. You give me Geno Smith with Gentry in the backfield, with Bowers at tight end. That's an offense that you got some stuff there to do. So I'm excited that the Raiders at least have a serviceable quarterback. It's been a while since the Raiders have had a serviceable quarterback since Derek Carr. So this is good news for me. You got anything to add on it, Vic?
I like Geno a lot. He's usually fairly consistent. He'll put up 250, 300 yards, couple touchdowns. Um, his interceptions are a little bit worrisome, but I think maybe being back with Pete Carroll can fix some of that. And I agree about Gene. He's a beast. Best running back coming out in the draft in a while. But also watch out for Marion Hampton from UNC. Um, I obviously saw him play a lot, being a state fan. I think he's going to be a good one also.
Yeah, I agree with you on that too. Either way, I think we're in the same fantasy league together, and I pick one, Vic picks second, and Gene T's probably going to be my pick for because we are a four. We keep four
Don't
guys, so.
do it. Don't do it.
We'll see where he ends up though first before I decide on who's going to go where. But yeah, it's going to be fun. A couple other little moves. Chicago. They finally decide, hey, we got this quarterback that seems like he could be pretty good in Caleb Williams. But last year we had Swiss and cheese on our offensive line, and so they added Caleb Williams. They added Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson. Tooney from the Kansas City, Jackson from the Rams. So they're actually finally starting to get some offensive line for Caleb Williams to go with their new head coach and stuff. So I think those were two really good moves for Chicago.
You got to build in those trenches. It's all about the trenches. If you
That's
get
right.
if you get good trenches, you're going to have a good football team.
I agree. And then the Washington fans, because I know we have a lot of guys here that are on these networks that are huge Commanders fans. They did re-sign their Bobby Wagner, which I think was a good 1-year deal for them. It's a good leadership move on that defense. He's not going anywhere. I think that's good for Washington that he stays put. I know. Let me just double check here because today I always love this term with the where they can legal tamperment or whatever they call it, where you can tamper because it's still not technically the start of free agents, but you can go ahead and talk to guys even though you can't talk to guys. So let me just make sure that there's no one else out here that's looking like they're signing. Looks like Godwin is returning to Tampa Bay on a 3-year deal. The Chiefs re-signed Moore, their other offensive lineman. Khalil Mack is going back to the Chargers on a deal. Reddick is also reaching a deal with the Bucks, this says. So there's a few sources out here for these legal tampering deals that are going on.
And Panthers signed Milton Williams, so little guy on the inside defensive line from Eagles. So we'll see.
Yep, and then Chad also adds here for us that the Bears also signed Dahlman today. So thanks, Chad, for throwing in some other one of these fun ones to go.
Some more O linemen.
Yes, the O-line is never a bad thing, that's for sure. All right, now it's time for what don't get me wrong. As you can tell, Vic knows his other stuff too. But why did I bring Vic in here? Well, I needed somebody to do this whole next segment with me because there's a lot to break down, and it's our drive to the net. So this is where we get into some of the fun that is hockey. And I'm actually going to start here because I was really I was at this game and we shared the photos and I had my daughter Showtime Sarah on last week to share those memories of the amazing time at Columbus Stadium. But the numbers weren't out when we did our show on Monday. Well, those numbers came out. Even with ESPN screwing around with the start time of this game, they had 1.9 million viewers for the Stadium Series game. It's the largest Stadium Series game. It's actually the largest regular season game in 5 years for the NHL network, for the NHL on ESPN or TNT. So, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, would the Four Nations bring a bump to the NHL? And normally when these tournaments have gone on, it has not created a bump for the NHL games. That so far this year, thankfully, is not holding true. We've seen a bump from the first week games, and then this would be the second week games after the Four Nations series with their next premium event, the Stadium Series. And sure enough, we're still seeing that bump there now. So it's good for the NHL. It's good news for the NHL, right, Vic?
Huge news. Maybe Batman won't get booed as much when he shows that Stanley Cup this year, but I'm not hopeful about that.
That's a tradition now with hockey fans. It doesn't even matter if we mean it or not. It's happened he now expects to be booed. It's almost like he almost looks around if he doesn't get booed, like, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? I'm not getting booed here, That's still going to happen. All right. But before we get into the trades, we've got, there's one other big thing, and we've got to give Ovi his update. I was watching the game last night because we just got into town and he hadn't scored yet, but then Washington gets the goal to go up 3-2, and sure enough, there's the empty net situation, and Ovi's out there. And look, even when he gets when he gets his empty netters, they're not cheap empty netters. Like this one was a backhand from his own blue line that he got so much mustard on, he still was able to bury it into the empty net. So he did score 2 more goals this week. So he is now 8 away from tying Gretzky. He's 9 away from breaking it. He has 33 goals in 47 games. He's on pace to score 45, so that's 12 more goals. You do the math, that tells you that he is going to break the record. Right now, the projection is for him to do it at their 5th to last home game, which is a home game against our Carolina Panthers on April 10th. So I'm going to ask you this question this way, Vic, because I'm a Caps fan, and I know my answer to this, or a Canes fan. I know my answer to this. Are you going to be okay watching Ovi break the record against the Carolina Hurricanes if that happens?
He's got to break it against somebody. So there's 31 other teams. So if it's the Canes, it's the Canes. Obviously, I'll congratulate him. He's one of the best players of all time. If it's against the Canes, it's against the Canes. There ain't nothing I can do about it.
I like that approach. And I'm kind of the same way. And then part of me is almost kind of like, I wouldn't be upset if it's against Carolina. Like there's something to be in that history books of the team that it went up against. Because like you said, somebody's going to have to be that team. My only thing
Yeah,
I still hold true to this. I don't want it to be an empty net goal. That's my only
yeah,
ask of the head coaches. And I get it. Like he wants the cap. His main goal is to worry about the Caps winning. But let's be honest, the Caps are still they're 12 points ahead of Carolina. We're down to 20 games left in the season. Unless even if Carolina goes on a huge run where they go, like 12-4, and we can get into a little bit later on why that probably isn't going to happen. But either way, the Caps probably have that first place. So that empty net worry, I don't think is necessarily there. He just can't have him out there for, I think, the tying goal and the breaking goal. Those have to be against the goalie. What do you think, Vic?
for sure, for sure. He's probably going to do it against the Canes, and I hope it's maybe against Pyotr Kochekov, another Russian. So we'll see.
Uh-oh. Chuck's getting in here with you on some NC greats, just to have some fun. I think he's having fun knowing that your NC State is in here. So he's going over some guys for UNC. Gotta love
Every
that.
single one of those, yeah, they killed NC State for sure. So that's not good memories.
Yeah, I think that's why he specifically chose those players just for you. so
Definitely.
so so Chuck, well done for you by you on giving him some grief for his NC State. I gotta love it. Chuck is also he's a sad Raider fan like me, but he's also down in the Carolina area. So and that guy where Vic bleeds red. Chuck definitely bleeds Carolina blue for sure. Jeff, which I knew this to be true. And I really, this is the other reason why I will not be upset if it's the Carolina 10th game, because one Jeff Nail has tickets for that game in Washington to see Carolina. So I kind of hope it stays on this target of April 10th, for him, which basically he's averaging like a goal every. It's not every other game, but it's like, he's averaging
2 or
like
3 games.
0.7. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
like 0.7 goals. So every 2 to 3 games is when he's getting it. So that's going to be fun. Jeff's prediction is that it's going to be Darnold going to Pittsburgh to throw to DK and Pickens. So yeah, I think that's a possibility. I don't know what, he's supposedly out, going to be, they're going to let him go, and they didn't franchise him. So I definitely think that's a possibility as well. So both good possibilities, I think, for what can happen for sure. All right. So now we got to get into, wow. I mean, there are NHL trade deadlines, and then there are NHL trade deadline moves, and this one had some doozies in it. We're going to, of course, save the best for last, and that's one that's going to be near and dear to our hearts. It kind of started with a player going off the market that I think was going to be on the market, and that was Mateo Oliver from Columbus. Columbus that did extend him, so he ended up not being on the market. Chuck's having some fun here still, so I want to get into this here. Let's see here. That will show there. Come on, show it. There it goes. I saw Roethlisberger might have a throw or two left in his arm. Yeah, they might try to pull Big Ben back. A worst case scenario if they have to, for sure. That would be kind of funny actually to see. He probably still could throw. Really, I wouldn't be surprised on that. All right, so we got Columbus. They get a guy off of it. Edmonton makes a couple of good smart moves. They traded away Max Wanner. They got Trent Frederick from Boston. Has Boston started there? And you're gonna hear this tone a lot of players going away from Boston. Edmonton also added a good D in Jake Wallman from San Jose. They sent away a vet and Carl Berglund, because with some of these moves that Edmonton made, they had to get rid of some guys too. So Edmonton, 4 teams out west definitely got better for sure. Edmonton, Ottawa, or not Ottawa, Colorado. We're going to get into Dallas here in a little bit too, and Winnipeg all got better out west for sure. You got any comments on Edmonton? And we'll just kind of go through these here team by team, how I have them in here.
I like Jake Wallman a lot. It's crazy that he actually was a waiver wire pickup for San Jose, and then they traded him for a first rounder to Edmonton. So I thought that was an interesting move. And Olivier, I think, is one of them players that can get the crowd going, especially in the playoffs. With the way he plays. So that was a good re-sign by Columbus. So
I agree with that, and Columbus is kind of that team, especially with Johnny Hockey and everything. Like I'm rooting that they get in, and they beat the Rangers yesterday. So
I actually think they might pass the Devils for third, and then that would put them against the Canes
I
in the
know.
first round, which is not something I want.
Nope. Me neither. We are in agreement there. I want to have Washington have to worry about Columbus. That would be a fun series to watch
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
think those two teams play actually very similar to each other, and so that would be kind of fun just to watch that series. I want nothing to do with Columbus. I'm sure every team that's at the top of the standings is probably feeling the same way. Like, please not let it be Columbus. Another team that it could be is actually Ottawa. They added Dylan Cousins from Buffalo, a couple other guys that were involved in that trade, but not really any names that really matter. Then they also added Fabrique Zetterlund and Tristan Robbins from San Jose, as San Jose again continues to move it. I like Zetterlund. He's a 36-point guy on a bad San Jose team. So I think Ottawa adds some depth that they really needed because they've got Brady Tkachuk and they've got Giroux and they've got a couple of these other guys, but they don't really have much depth to go along with what they've got. This adds to some of that depth, and I think it's going to give them a good chance to make that push to get in as well.
for sure. I like Ottawa a lot. They got a good young team, a young defensive core. Sanderson. Who's the other one? My mind's drawing a blank, but they got some good young pieces. Stutzla, Kachuk. Kachuk's one of my favorite players out on the Canes. So yeah,
Brady is just fun. I mean, like, and there's talk of that. Oh well, he's going to leave Ottawa. Like, I just don't see it. Like, you can see how he interacts with that crowd. Shabbat, I think, is maybe the other D that you're thinking of
goodbye. Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
them. Yep, and Stuzel too. That's a kid that can just that kid can play too. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ottawa's another one of those teams they get in. Don't think that they're going to be an easy get out either. So, Colorado, who lost Mikko Rantanen before the Four Nations tournament, and we're going to get into Mikko later. We got to build that bad boy up. They added Jimmy Vesey, Ryan Lindgren. These guys are UFAs, but they're good. The Rangers and them kind of swap players. Because Rangers got Calvin DeHaan. Both these teams are kind of in it, so there's kind of they're both adjusting the pieces. But the big add for Colorado is getting Brock Nelson from the Islanders. I think that's a really good add for them. And then they also added Charlie Coyle from Boston, so that gives them some added D. I think these two moves by Colorado kind of, and the way that one Martin Necas, who we're familiar with from his days with Carolina, who has just fit in amazingly well with Colorado, which I'm not surprised because the reins have been released from him and he's being allowed to play the way that I knew that he was capable of playing as a center. In Colorado, he's being allowed to do that, and he's just thriving, which doesn't surprise me at all. So I think Colorado definitely is going to be in the mix all the way to the end on this thing with these moves. What are your feelings
For
about
sure, for sure.
Colorado, Vic?
I like Brock Nelson's game a lot. I was actually hoping the Canes would maybe pick him up, but the Islanders probably weren't going to trade him within the division for reasons. But let's see. Charlie Coyle, another guy, center, playoff guy. Colorado's some good moves, and they're on collision course with Dallas, who is my new least favorite. For reasons we'll talk about later.
Yes.
A few minutes actually.
We're building
Spoiler
that up.
alert.
Vic. We're building that up. We're building that. We're building that to
Spoiler
the end,
alert.
baby. Minnesota, a nice little added move too. They added Gustav Nyquist from Nashville. I think it's a smart move for them. It adds a 21-point guy who's under. Look, Nashville. If there's a list of the disappointment teams from this year, it's Nashville 1, Nashville 2, Nashville 3. They just underperformed in every which way and form with all the guys that they added this year. So they started to lose a couple of those guys. So I'm not. It's a good move for them. I don't think it's going to be enough to top the top 4 teams in the West, but I think it's a good add for them for sure. We talk about that other 4 team in the West, and that's Winnipeg. They added Luke Shen was traded first from Nashville to Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh turns around and flips Luke Shen out to Winnipeg, which I think is a good move. Then they also added Brandon Tanev from Seattle, which I think they gave up a second round pick for him, which I think is a little expensive for me. But he's a good 2-way forward. Shen's a good D guy. They didn't really need to add much offense, so I think they're just adding a little bit more defense, which is never a bad thing for the playoffs. So, and these are moves to help them get ready. Right now, Winnipeg's the one. There's very similar to where Washington is, right? Where it's going to be very difficult for anyone to catch them. But it's going to mean though that they're going to have to be ready for that second round.
Yeah. We talked about Hallebuck a lot, and as during the Four Nations and how he is in the playoffs, and he performed pretty well in the Four Nations. But we'll see how it goes in the playoffs. He usually struggles when it comes to playoff time, so we'll see what happens when Winnipeg gets to the playoffs. But as a one seed, he definitely can't have another little choke thing. So we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like that's always been the thing out on Hallebuck, and that's even what I talked about. Going into the Four Nations of that. But he did earn like when yes, they lost the gold medal game. Yeah, the three goals he gave up were through no fault of his own. Really, I don't really think any of them. You leave Connor McDavid open, 6 feet in front of you, he's going to bury the puck.
It's game over. Yep.
Yeah, it's game over, right? So I don't blame him for those, at all. But yeah, I agree with you. That's what's all going to come down to. Winnipeg is going to go as far as Connor Hallebuck takes them probably, because they just don't have quite the offensive firepower of the Dallases and the Edmontons and even the
Colorado.
Colorados. So we'll see how that plays out for them for sure when we get into it. Tampa Bay, they did make some surprise moves for me in that, I kind of, thought that this might be the year that they start, trying to pull back, but I think they also realize that this team is aging. They've gotten a great year out of Jake Gensel for sure, and so with that they added a couple guys from Seattle. They get Yanni Gord and Oliver Borkstrat, and they give up a lot of picks to get these two guys. Gord's only got 17 points, but he's only played 36 games. He's kind of coming off an injury. Borkstrat's the big guy. He's got 37 points in 61 games, so he definitely adds some depth to this Tampa Bay team. And look, the big dog in here is Florida, and that is because of a guy that they added, which I haven't gotten into Florida yet. But they're trying to stick with Florida, and these moves, I think these moves maybe take them up over Toronto, where they'll probably end up getting the 2 seed. But ultimately, Tampa and Toronto are on the collision course for the first round. I don't see either one of them catching Florida, so these two teams are going to play each other. I just think it gives Tampa the upper hand to make sure that Toronto goes yet another year without advancing in the playoffs. What do you think?
I agree with you there. Tampa Gord used to play with he was an old Tampa Bay player. I think they drafted him actually, and then he moved around, and now they got him back for a little playoff run. I like his game a lot. They got Kucherov, Point, so they're pretty loaded. I think they'll yeah, as Jeff said, Hedman and Vasky and Cooch definitely dangerous for sure. I think they'll probably beat Toronto in 6 or 7. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with what Jeff says. Any team with Hedman, Vasky, and Cooch is dangerous. The team that they're going to run up against also made a big trade, and that was the one that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. Florida adds Brad Marchand from Boston for a second rounder. This is a really great move for Florida. Brad is a very similar player to Matt Tkachuk. All things point to Matt being healthy when it gets to playoff time. Now, granted, Brad isn't even healthy, which we talked earlier. I'm going to the Boston game tomorrow. They're supposed to play Florida. I got super excited when I first saw this trade because, like, oh my God, I'm going to get to see Brad Marchand's first game in Boston. It's going to be crazy, but he's not playing tomorrow. So I assume that he's going to be here in the building. But if he isn't, that's okay. Another move that Florida made, they added Vitek Vanecek, a goalie from San Jose, who also is, he's on I think his 4th or 5th team now. This is a good little move only because they traded away Spencer Knight, and with that being said, they needed a goalie to be behind Bob. And he was better than than their AHL guys. So adding Vanek gives them at least an NHL starter to rest Bob. So it's a smart move then, to make sure that they've got somebody behind Bob just in case. But this move for Florida is Brad Marchand, because let's be honest, you're healthy and you're in the playoffs and you got to face a line, and they could do this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. You throw a line of Bennett, Tkachuk, and Marchand together. Oh my God. I don't want to be the line that has to go against those 3 guys, because there's one thing for sure. They may not score, but you're going to get your ass kicked up and down the ice.
You're going to be hurt for sure.
Right.
You're going to be hurting.
I think that's a rat. My eyesight is not good. I think that's
Yeah,
some type
that's
of
a rat.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a rat. Okay, yeah. So Jeff is making the comment, Brad Marchand, known as the rat, and he's playing for Florida, which also throws rats on the ice from the time when there used to be rats in the arena they used to be in. It's a perfect symmetrical move. But this move is kind of surprising too, in the sense because we saw a lot more of this year. Washington, which I'll get into here too real quickly, then we'll go back to this one. But it fits into this little theme. They added Anthony Beauvillier for a second round pick from Pittsburgh. And we've seen more and more this year of teams trading with other teams in the division than I've ever remember seeing at an NHL trade deadline. Usually it was you only made a trade with guys in the other conference. You didn't even take a chance of them being in the same conference, let alone in the divisions like we've seen this year.
For sure. Definitely interesting. Like I said, I wanted Brock Nelson on the Kings, but like I said, that's an in division trade there that I don't think the Islanders wanted to make for future reasons. But for sure, definitely an interesting trade deadline. A lot of lateral moves in division. Marchand to Florida. Uh, just
Yeah,
wild
Toronto and
times.
Ottawa, I think, made trades. Yeah, Toronto and Philly
Hmm.
made trades together. Like it just was crazy. And so real quickly for the Washington side of this, it's a good little. Washington didn't do a lot, and when you have the record that they have, I don't think that they needed to do a lot. I think it was a smart little move. It kind of fits in with this team chemistry, and they've got such chemistry going right now. I 100% get why Washington didn't want to mess with it, and I wouldn't mess with it either. So it's a good little ad. He's a good two-way player. They did give up a second for him. But they've got an extra pick, so it's kind of really not you're not giving up even your own pick. So I'm okay with where they're at with doing it. But that is a good move too. So Vic, before we get into the big daddy that really matters to us, any other comments you want to add on any of these other trades before we dissect what is and known as the Mikko Rantanen debacle?
Going back to Florida, I think they're the Stanley Cup favorites again. Kachuk, Marchand, the defense, the how they play, they hit you, they'll wear you out over several games. I think they'll be the Stanley Cup favorites again. So yeah,
And I agree with you too, Vic. They right now, as where the team stand today, they are my number one team to win it. So Paul Cordova, if you are watching, we are expecting the back to back for you guys.
and
I just
sorry,
that's
Jeff. Also, I know your team's on a little roll there,
yep,
but
that they are.
I think that they'll go up against Florida. I don't like your chances too much. I don't even like my team's chances against Florida. So
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't even think we'll play Florida, unfortunately. So with that, we have to talk about this trade. It is clearly the debacle of all debacles. So we'll start back in the trade here. Oh yeah, we'll throw this in here too because he's right. Jeff puts in here, great coach too, Paul Maurice. Ex Canes head coach. We
yeah,
we love Paul
yeah.
Maurice for sure. So he is definitely good for sure there on that. But we do have to get into the Mikko Rantanen situation. What can we say about Mikko? Let's start it off with, he comes to Carolina, and a lot of people were first talking about this. The trade is he goes to Dallas. Dallas gets what they can. They add a young kid, Logan Stankoven, good kid, second year kid, and they get a ton of draft picks. But the deal happened way too late for the Canes to do anything with those draft picks. So we go back when the Canes got him from Colorado. A lot of people were giving the Canes crap about the fact that, well, you knew he's a UVA. They should have been able to have talks about, they should have had talks with him if whether or not he's going to sign in Carolina. Well, the Carolina did get that permission. The agent told them that, yeah, sure, he'll come there, and that they'd maybe have a chance to play him. uh, the agent thought that Colorado was bluffing and that they were doing something similar to what Vancouver was doing with one of their stars, Eli Pettersson. And it turns out that really Mikko had no interest in playing in Carolina. Carolina gives him a good deal. It's a 9-figure deal over 8 years. So it's somewhere around 13.25 is the rumor value of what they were. And then Mikko decides, Mikko isn't talking to the press in Carolina. He's not talking to anybody. But then he decides that he is going to, for a week, hold Carolina in the wind just to tell them that no, there's no chance that he's playing for Carolina. And over this week, while he's playing in games, to say that his work ethic on the ice was lacking would be something. Now, a lot of people were wondering because is it Rod Brind'Amour's style is a very hard style to get used to. Was it just that Mikko and the style wasn't clicking? His best friend plays with the Carolina Hurricanes, Sebastian Aho. Those two seem to have some chemistry, but just Mikko wasn't quite given the same effort that if you look back at film on Colorado and if you watch any of his first game in Dallas, you would definitely see that with the effort that he was giving in Carolina didn't match what was going on with some of these other teams. And then Mikko does agree to an 8-year deal with Dallas at 12 million a year. You're like, well, wait a second, that's $1.5 million less. But in fairness, in Dallas, there is no income tax, so 12 million ends up probably being a little bit more. But you could argue that the cost of living in the Dallas area is way higher than what would be in Raleigh. So the real thing is, it just seems like Mikko Rantanen wanted nothing to do with Carolina, kind of leaves Carolina in a bad situation. I don't blame Carolina. They're trying to go for it. They add a guy, they try to get it in, and it just didn't work out. So they get the best return that they can. Well, we can get into later that, but Vic, I've rambled on to set up the stage for you. I'll let you have a few moments of going off on Mikko Rantanen yourself.
I'm trying to keep it family friendly, but I just want to say Mikko Rantanen is a butthole, and that last game, he was just out there going through the motions, and I was like, I want him gone tomorrow, and luckily he was gone tomorrow. So I think Carolina made the best of a pretty bad situation and got a good young player in Stankoven and some draft capital. Unfortunately, draft capital couldn't be used during this trade deadline because Rantanen, uh, what's the word I'm looking for, dragged his what trying to sign his deal with Dallas. So that kind of put Carolina behind during the trade deadline. I heard they were probably after Brock Besser, who would have been a huge goal scorer for the Kings. But it is what it is, and I think they made the best of a bad situation. And I hope Dallas loses in the first round and never win anything ever again. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, I mean, this deal is just one, and the interesting part about it is the agent for Miko is the same agent that Jake Gensel had, which is interesting because Jake Gensel, for those that don't remember, signed last year with Carolina, similar situation, looked to be leaning towards re-signing with Carolina in the offseason, then went to Tampa. Same agent for both guys. My guess is going to be that Carolina probably isn't going to want to deal with too many more of the players for that guy moving forward on it. But I do want to talk because there's a lot of talk out here from the experts about, oh, well, this just shows that Carolina, that they can't sign the big guys, which is crap, because they've got Jacob Slavin signed long term. He signed 2 different extensions to stay there forever, basically. Sebastian Aho, the same thing. He's basically going to be a Carolina Hurricane for his career. Andrei Svechnikov, same thing. They got him signed long term. Carolina has been able to
Seth
sign
Jarvis.
Yeah, Seth Jarvis, another one. So Carolina can get their guys signed long term. It's not that issue. I just think, look, some people, the one thing, and some people want the spotlight, and if you're playing in Raleigh, it's very easy to just blend in and kind of hide. Where in these big markets, and some people like that about Carolina, that they can go there, like the Jordan Martinooks and stuff have talked over and over again about how much that he loves that he, for the most part, even though he's loved in Raleigh, he can go to the store, and if he's wearing the right outfit, doesn't even get recognized. And I think there's something to be said where these guys can kind of blend into society. And that doesn't happen in a lot of these other markets. And maybe Mikko wants that. Maybe he wants the big market of Dallas. I don't know what his hate is, but I promise you this, and Jared kind of mentioned this off in fun. How much fun would it be if somehow it is a Dallas Carolina Stanley Cup final? Because if that happens, you want to talk about a player like Eric Holla gets booed a lot in Carolina. You want to talk about a player that's going to get booed. Nothing is going to the Carolina Hurricane fans, the Caniac Nation is not forgiving on a player that they feel has done wrong to them. This guy is going to get booed. Am I correct, Vic?
You are definitely correct. And I think Dallas still has to visit Carolina later on in the season, and he's going to get booed off the ice then too. So
Did they?
that'll be that'll.
I thought for some reason they were done with Dallas this year. I didn't think that he had to go back out
Uh,
there again.
I think Dallas has to come to. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong, but I think Dallas has to come to PNC.
I hope you're right, because that would be great.
Yep, for sure.
All right, so we've hit on that, but in fairness to Carolina, they also did add this guy from Nashville, Janikowski,
Jankowski.
he third, fourth line guy. So what happens for Carolina? Janikowski gets the 2 goals, and then Logan Stankoven, who they get, scores the 3rd goal. They get an empty netter from Seth Jarvis, so they beat Winnipeg, one of the best teams in the league, 4-2 yesterday.
Bank and stink.
And yes, and that was the term that Vic came up with, which I loved, and we're going to ride that all through the rest of the playoffs for sure. So we'll see where this all goes in a couple of weeks. We'll revisit everything for sure. But it is almost the end of the show, and we're going to go down the road. There's a little bit of baseball news because, hey, well, they're no longer the Oakland A's, right? They're just the A's, right? I think they're the team that was formerly known as Oakland A's, but now they're just the A's until they decide that they're officially the Vegas A's or whatever they're going to do. But the A's actually did at least spend some money. They re-signed one of their young outfielders, Lawrence Butler, to a 7-year, $65 million deal. He batted .291, had 20 homers and 84 games for them last year. I really like watching this kid play ball. So, hey, let's give the A's credit that they're actually finally spending some money.
Definitely. They were stuck in Oakland, and be quiet, Chip.
Hey, I didn't say that they're making the cup. I just said that it would be funny if they did against Dallas. I just want to see that, to watch the booing go on. But yeah, I honestly
St.
don't
Louis
think
ain't either.
Yeah, that's true. But St. Louis could now get. I think they're. If I look like they're only 2 points out again. Like the Wild Cup standings are just crazy in the NHL. I mean, let's take a peek here. I think St. Louis is actually back in it again. Yeah, they're a point out of the playoff spot. You have
Well, I
Calgary
better
in
be
the
quiet
second.
then.
Calgary's in the second wild card spot at 70. You got Vancouver, St. Louis at 69, and Utah at 66. The East is crazy. You got Columbus at 70, Ottawa at 69 and then you have the Rangers at 68, and then all at 66 points. You have Detroit, Montreal, Boston, and the Islanders at 65 points. So buckle up. It's going to be fun. Let's see here. Yeah, it's also Blues need a new Tarasenko. Yeah, they do. I mean, I think if the Blues get in this year, they're similar to Columbus. It's just great for both of them if they actually do get into the show this year. So, and speaking of show, we're right at it. We even went a little bit over today. How about that, Vic? Anything you want to add before we wrap this baby up?
I appreciate you adding me on. Then we had a pretty good show today. So my interesting feedback for sure.
Yeah, I agree, Vic. Thanks for coming on. It's definitely nice having somebody to bat some of the stuff back, and most importantly, allows me to hit the mute button every now and then and get a drink, which is always good instead of me rambling for an hour. So we appreciate anyone that joined us live with the comments. I know we jumped down a little bit earlier, but like I said, being busy in Boston tonight, I got more important things to do than to try to be doing the show at 5 o'clock tonight. That's for sure. So schedule in a little bit of time now to get it done, and so that way you guys can enjoy it later. And then we'll see the comments. And again, too, if you guys do watch this on anything later, please don't hesitate to put comments in there. If I see them, I'll definitely throw them in there. Listen to see what you guys say on it. Next week we're going to have I think a special show. We're still kind of working out the show with the guys to see what we're going to do, because my show technically is before any other the actual tournament games start on that Tuesday. So we might have a few of the guys jump in and do some predictions for the NCAA tournament coming up on Monday night show. That start time might vary here too. So we'll work out all those details on that. But Vic, definitely thanks for coming on with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed having you. It's
For sure.
good to have somebody else to
Let me
make
know
sure
if
that
you
I'm
need
not
me
going
again.
crazy on this. Absolutely, you got it, buddy. All right, but with that, you got anything else to add, Vic, before we say adios?
Have a good day, everyone. Take care of your mental health. It's very important.
Yes, I agree with that. And as I always say, make sure you hug your loved ones and tell them that you love them, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. But hopefully we will see you all next show.